Here's a story we have from The Guardian. Northern Territory police arrest 3 people who escaped from Howard Springs COVID quarantine facility. Trio allegedly jumped the fence at the open air center near Darwin early on Wednesday. You want to know what the best part is? Do you know what the name of the do you know what type of facility the Howard Springs facility is?
It's like a...
No. Give me the exact statement. No hyperbole. Literally, what is the Howard Springs facility? Anybody?
Summer camp?
Literal, not made up. Come on.
Know.
What has the Australian government called it? You guys don't know this?
No. Nope.
Concentration
No.
camp.
They call it a quarantine camp.
Uh-huh.
I didn't think that was very difficult, but I guess you guys didn't know.
I don't know.
They're now calling it the Center for National Resilience.
What?
Police and staff at the Center for National Resilience. I'm sorry. That's probably, I probably got that wrong.
Okay.
That's probably just where they're doing the investigation from. The police and staff at the Center for National Resilience are currently confirming the absconders' identities prior to releasing further information. They say it's a large open-air facility for quarantining people. The alleged escape, the absconders. So there are people being brought to these facilities voluntarily?
Uh-huh.
Is it voluntary?
Do we know?
Well,
But
they're
then-
not able to leave voluntarily, apparently.
It doesn't look voluntarily.
Yeah.
If they have to escape, then there's not a voluntary exit strategy. Well, that I know of.
Yeah.
So let's get into the propagandists. This one's a little too personal for me. I've been harping on this for a minute, but I want to make this very concise for you guys so you can understand what's going on in Australia. I have these series of tweets that break down what's happening in Australia very simply. I said, don't forget, if the chief minister says you can't leave your home even to get food, thanks the army for their trucks used to transport COVID suspects, and you get arrested if you try to leave the camp, Jesse Singal and Quillette say it's a conspiracy theory. So here we go. Here's one article. Under that lockdown, residents could only leave home for 5 reasons, including essential shopping, essential work, providing or receiving care, exercise, and obtaining medical treatment. Gunner has announced Binjari and Rockall residents now cannot leave their homes unless for medical reasons or in an emergency. That means you can't leave for food. We have this from Grabian. Chief Minister Gunner. The Army is now transferring positive COVID cases and contacts in Northern Territory, Australia, to quarantine camps by Army trucks. And finally, NT police arrest 3 people who escaped from Howard Springs COVID quarantine facility. The propaganda and those supporting the state narrative in this regard is probably the scariest thing to me, because what ended up happening today was Jesse Singal wrote this entirely fabricated story about me, claiming that I was like a conspiracy theorist or something, based on my tweets literally quoting abc.net.au, which is to say 38 people were transported by Army truck to the quarantine facilities. I never said with guns drawn or by force or anything like that. He then writes this big article that's completely fake, seemingly just to kind of discredit me. Now, of course, I know that's personal, and I take emotional issue with it. But I decided to put together these 3 sources, which I included the links to all of these stories on Twitter. And surprise, surprise, many people didn't know this was real. So a lot of people engaging in the Twitter spat I had with Jesse see these 3 stories, and their response immediately was, no way that's real. Because if you read these propaganda stories from like Quillette or Jesse, you'd think I made it up. When in fact, it's all NewsGuard certified sources. In Australia, they have police and military setting up checkpoints and locking down people in their homes. The chief minister has said, you cannot leave your home for these reasons, for the normal lockdown reasons, meaning no food. He then said, I'd like to thank the prime minister for the ADF personnel and army trucks to transport the COVID cases and the suspected cases and close contacts to the Howard Springs facility. All of that was said from his mouth.
I feel like Quillette is kind of going the way of the mainstream media, which is a little bit troubling. And I think it's a really good reminder that we need to be incredibly critical of all of our sources, even if we think that they're mostly or some percentage in agreement with us ideologically.